It's finally here. I think this is like the last Power 5 conference to finally drop their schedule. But hey, guess what? That schedule is dropped. So we've got the Big 12 schedule, which launched at about 1 o'clock today. I want to talk about some of the Big 12 games that jump out to me that's going to be intriguing, as well as go through this Oklahoma schedule. Let's talk about it coming up here in about 10 seconds. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay here with Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. And in this video, we're going to jump into the Big 12 schedule. I've got a couple of games that have jumped out to me, and then we're going to talk about the 5 things that really jump out to me for the Oklahoma schedule. So make sure you stick around in the latter part of the video to talk about Oklahoma. But before we do that, you know the drill. Jump in the comments. Let me know if you've seen the schedule yet. What games excite you on this Oklahoma schedule, or even any other school? What other Big 12 games really got your attention when the first time you looked through this? If you're new to the channel, hit that like, subscribe, and the bell notification. We would love to have you join us here at the family. We're dropping a lot of college football content, man, and I am stoked that we finally got a schedule to overreact on early, and then we can come back and talk about it again later this summer. So with that, let's dive right into the meat and potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and pop up the schedule right now for you guys to look at. The Big 12 launched this afternoon. So now we actually have a schedule. We know who's going to play who in the conference. There was a lot of issues, and rumor has it people were complaining about, saying that Oklahoma was the problem with this, which, I don't believe that. We all know that it ain't Oklahoma that was the problem. But, it is what it is. And so as we look at this schedule, quite fascinated. Let's jump and talk about some of the games in the Big 12 overall that has got my attention. So we all know the new teams are here. You've got BYU, University of Central Florida, you got Cincinnati, you've got University of Houston, and you got SMU. So you've got 5 additional schools that have joined the conference. And so they had a lot of mixing up to figure out, in combination of these schools all having their own non-conference schedule set. Big 12 had to put it together. So they've got an actual Big 12 conference set up, which is dope. Everybody won't get to play everybody. And I think that's going to be key for us to remember, that some schools aren't going to see each other. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of intriguing matchups. So let's go through these Big 12 ones, the one that really have jumped out to me. You've got Baylor hosting Utah. So looking at this one, let me say this first. Gray means home game. Really weird. Don't know why they did that, but I digress. You've got Baylor with Utah coming to town the second weekend of the season on September 9th. That one's going to be an intriguing game. Let's see if Baylor can bounce back. And, Utah coming off of winning the Pac-12. That's going to be a game to circle and watch. BYU, Arkansas, them traveling to Arkansas. BYU leaving the independent status and now coming to actually be in a conference. They've got some now, competition. I guess work to do. And they've got to prove themselves. And this is going to be a great opportunity playing an SEC team, and then going through the schedule will really help jump things for the conference. And then from there, Texas. Looking at Texas, they travel out of the state only twice this entire season. Only 2 times they leave the state of Texas, with going to Tuscaloosa, which is a big deal. They're playing Alabama. And then they travel to Iowa State. But outside of that, Tech is at the house. I mean, they go, TCU comes to them. Houston, Kansas comes to them. BYU's in Texas. Baylor's in Texas. And so going through their schedule, they don't leave their state. Fascinating. The toughest game, of course, is going to be Alabama, but it's crazy that they looked out. I've heard some people say that their schedule looks brutal. Looks convenient to me. I'm going to keep it a buck. It looks convenient this year. So there's no cross-country traveling. They don't have to go to West Virginia. They don't have to go to Cincinnati, UCF. Their games against the new schools really is Houston and BYU. Pretty beneficial, right? All right. Outside of them, you've got I think the last one that really jumped out to me that I think was, of course, of intrigue. Honestly, Cincinnati and Pitt. With them traveling up to Pitt to play, that's going to be a game to keep an eye on. So that's that's the overall Big 12 schedule. Take a gander if you got questions. Of course, TCU playing Colorado is one that everybody's got circled. And in Tech having Oregon come to town, everybody's circling that also. But I think overall, those are the ones that jump out to me. Hop in the comments. Let me know which ones really get your attention. So, all right, let's look at Oklahoma's schedule now. So let's go through each game first. Not going to give you predictions yet. I think I'm going to do that later in the week. We'll probably go ahead and drop that on the pod, add some folks on, and we can all talk through each game. But I'll give you my predictions later. I want some time to really chew and digest on this. And so let's look at the schedule first. We'll talk about the 5 things that jumped out to me on this new Oklahoma schedule. First and foremost, we've got Arkansas State coming to the house. We then SMU's coming to Norman as well. Then back-to-back travel games, going to Tulsa and then going to Cincinnati. Iowa State comes to town this year, so no traveling to Ames, thank goodness. Neutral site game against the Texas Longhorns, horns down. Bye week, yay, get a break. And then UCF comes to town. So Dylan Gabriel gets to face his old school, same thing as Jeff Lebby. Then traveling to Lawrence, Kansas, traveling to Stillwater for the Bedlam matchup. West Virginia comes to town, travel out to BYU, go to Provo, and then TCU comes to town and faces them on a Friday, which is very much fascinating to me. Friday game. Would have not expected it. I digress. 5 things that jumped out to me in this new schedule setup. First off, Oklahoma has 2 road games against the new teams, which is intriguing. Traveling to Cincinnati and traveling to BYU, which I think could potentially be tough games because, of course, Cincinnati's still going through their turmoil. They lost Luke Fickell and making all their changes or whatnot. And then BYU's BYU. I talked about them earlier about them traveling to Arkansas. And they've got to prove themselves because they're no longer independent. And it's a lot easier for them to schedule, of course, because now they're in an actual conference. So I'm intrigued to see what that looks like going all the way to Provo in November. Be our first time really, traveling out like that since I guess you could say like going to Colorado back in the old Big 12, going that direction this late in the season. It's going to be fun to see. And Provo's beautiful. So if you have a chance to travel out there, I'm debating on going to that game because I've always wanted to go, hit up Provo in the wintertime and see the sights and see the beautiful views and the mountains and stuff. That jumped out to me. Oklahoma has 6 home games and then 5 roads with the neutral site game, with the Texas game always being a neutral site game. And really only traveling out of the state 3 times, which that's intriguing to me. I'm sorry, 4 times. We'll say 4 out of the 12 games are traveling out of state, which the Dallas game is, Red River. That's a half and half one. So it doesn't really feel like it's truly a road game. It's more of a, it's the neutral site. But on the road games, they're going to Cincinnati, going to Lawrence, Kansas, and then Provo. Oklahoma State is, of course, in Stillwater, hour away. And then so is Tulsa, roughly hour and a half, 2 hours away. Can't beat that. Similar to Texas, really not leaving their state. It's not that bad. It's actually a pretty good setup. And so it looks like it's kind of a favorable schedule for the Sooners in that. Next, looking at this, that TCU game's on a Friday. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, somebody here is probably going to be able to correct me anyway. I don't recall Oklahoma playing on a Friday night over the Thanksgiving weekend. That jumped out to me. It's different. Is it a bad thing? No, but it is different. I just feel like it's definitely different to see them actually have to play on a Friday night on Black Friday. Like, I don't know. But it is TCU and they're coming to town, so it's probably a good thing, Gives the team the opportunity for those in Oklahoma can, do Thanksgiving at home with family or with the coaches and all of that jazz. So can't complain about that. There's some interesting teams missing off the schedule. This 4th thing that jumped out to me is going to be no Kansas State, who has given Oklahoma some problems the last 5 years, 5 to 6 years. We've had problems with them. And then no Tech or Baylor. Adding these new teams really switch things up. And not to say these new teams are just bad. I mean, UCF's not a bad team, and neither is BYU. They usually always produce some stuff. Cincinnati is dealing with, like I said, that turmoil, little change. So that's going to be intriguing in itself. But yeah, Oklahoma's kind of got, I'm going to say, this is not a bad schedule. It's pretty favorable. Now, last thing is I can probably see a couple of losses potentially in here. I'm not going to tell you who yet, but I'm going to talk about that in another video with some folks. But Oklahoma, the lack of distance traveled this year. I mean, you go to Dallas once, Cincinnati and Provo, and then Lawrence. I mean, that's some good stuff. So this is a year that there's really no excuse for Oklahoma to not have a very, very good record, especially the team that's being built right now. So looking at this, tell me what you think. That's the new Big 12 schedule. That is Oklahoma's schedule. I'm going to give my predictions probably later this week. Like I mentioned, hop in the comments. I want to know your thoughts on the new schedule for Oklahoma that's finally got released by the Big 12. What games jump out to you? What game are you going to try to visit? We would love to hear your opinions. If you're new to the channel, hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification. We're talking a lot of college football here. Definitely going to be talking a lot of Big 12 football this coming season. Really jump heavy into them coming the summer as we prepare for the season itself. Of course, continues to doing all my OU football stuff. I'm going to pick up a SEC school to go with my Pac-12 school that I have, which is Colorado, that we like covering and talking about because it's all intriguing, and we want to see, we want to get that engagement up and keep the growth chain going for the channel. We're almost at 8,000 subs. So tell a friend, share. Why? Because sharing is caring. Help us get to that 8,000. So thank y'all for tuning in. I will chop it up with y'all. I don't know, about a day or two. We've got some stuff going on. It is National Signing Day tomorrow officially. And let's see what additional players are going to sign their names on the line, which is dotted. Hopefully we pick up some pretty good, surprises. But we'll see. With that, chop it up in a bit. And since you're sticking around, YouTube has got a couple videos for you to watch. So go ahead and pick one of the two. Stick around. I mean, you made it this far. You may as well watch the rest of the videos. Peace.